Well, this morning, the father of the American student Otto Warmbier, who was just freed by North Korea, is calling out former President Obama for not doing enough.
We received a very nice phone call from President Trump, who told us that Secretary of State Tillerson worked hard to help bring Otto home. We are extremely grateful for their efforts and concern. Do I think the past administration could have done more? I think the results speak for themselves.
Well, there you have it. So what does this mean for our relations with North Korea going forward? Rebeccah Heinrichs is a Hudson Institute National Security Fellow and Foreign Policy Advisor to Congressman Trent Franks, and she joins us now. Rebeccah, thanks so much for coming in. They send this poor kid back in a coma. They did God knows what to him. This is hardly a gesture of good faith, I would think, right?
Oh, no. What the North Koreans want to reestablish communications with the United States. But in the past, when there have been U.S. hostages, they've come back alive. The North Koreans typically do not physically harm them in this way, although they do endure psychological torture, that sort of thing. So the fact that Otto came back in a coma is not going to bode well for the North Koreans. We just got to figure out at this point how he got this in this state, and it really is a shame, and it's not going to do any favors for the North Korean regime.
And of course, you were referencing back in 2009, right, with former President Clinton, or President Bill Clinton.
Yeah, he was former Clinton at the time. President Obama was in the White House, and President Clinton was able to help go to North Korea and secure the release of 2 American prisoners. And then again, we had another American prisoner released in 2014. So we have had some success in the past. But the fact that Otto came back in such bad shape, there are a lot of questions about what the North Korean regime was doing. Why didn't it release Otto to us once he went into a coma? Why did they keep him there for so long?
Well, you could tell that he was having problems way back at the very beginning when they brought him in and he was forced to make that confession.
It was a mess. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And the North Korean regime does not like its human rights abuses exposed. And so I think what the Trump administration is going to do is make sure that, this was not a humanitarian gesture. We have to make that clear. The North Korean regime is probably the most repressive regime in the world. And so it has a terrible record on this. And, again, the big problem we have right now with North Korea is its human rights problems, but it's its nuclear missile program. And this is certainly not going to, help us move in the direction of securing some diplomatic channels or that sort of thing with the North Koreans.
Right. Well, what's always driven me crazy is we've dealt with this nation and with this dictator as if they're rational people, and as if Kim Jong-un, I think, is the least rational, much less so than his father. I mean, he's a psychopath. Why do we bargain with them? I mean, and do you think this new administration is going to deal with them the way that I think a lot of Americans think they should be dealt with?
Well, it is interesting that the Trump administration was able to secure Otto's release so quickly into its administration, and I think what that tells us too is the North Koreans don't do anything out of the kindness of their hearts. They do it because they think it's in their own interests, and so I think the North Koreans are taking the Trump administration more seriously. You're right. Negotiations, diplomacy in the past has not worked with the regime. They will not get rid of their nuclear program, and so we're left with coercion and force as options if we cannot get the Chinese to actually, really turn the screws on the North Koreans, because without China's trade, North Korea has nothing.
Yeah. The problem, though, also, as you referenced earlier, is their nuclear capabilities. I mean, that you have to consider that before you do anything.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's why no American tourist should be going to North Korea. And your heart just goes out to Otto's family that he was there and that he was lured there by this Chinese tourist company. No American should go there, because right now what the Trump administration needs to do is really ensure that the North Koreans do not get the capability to target American citizens with a nuclear capability. That has got to be our first and foremost priority. And
they released the kid in a coma while also threatening to nuke New York City and South Korea. So, what a joke. All right, Rebeccah, thank you so much for joining us this morning.